All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to start the meeting off with a moment of silence for the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, for the shooting victims. It was quite a tragedy, and I think we owe them a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Next is an opportunity for questions or comments from the public. Do we have anything?
I just want to make a quick announcement about how wonderful Horsham Day was this past Saturday. It was our first Horsham Day in the last 2 years we haven't had Horsham Day. The weather was a big help for us. It was a beautiful day, but to my right here is Dennis Haggerty. Dennis took the lead for planning the day, organizing the day, coordinating the day. Yes, he had a lot of help, but without Dennis, without a leader in place, the day would not have gone as great as it did. He did a fantastic job. And there's a lot of planning that goes into Horsham Day. I know council is aware of it, but we start planning Horsham Day 6 months in advance of Horsham Day. So it's a 6-month planning process, very detailed planning process. The day as I said, was a great day. I think people just wanted to come back out and they missed it for the last 2 years. We estimate between the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. we had 12,000 people through Horsham Day. And then for the fireworks, that came back another 10 to 12,000 for the fireworks. So it was a really great day. It sounds like a lot of people, but if you've ever been to Horsham Day, and I'm looking at a few people out there, I know you've been to Horsham Day with your kids and some of you with your grandchildren now. We spread them out between Deep Meadow, Carpenter, Kohler, the township building. So even though there's that many people, it doesn't feel like that many people. So, Mr. Haggerty, thank you for a job well done.
Sure, you're welcome. I was in charge of the weather, so I guess I did pretty good. But I do want to take a second, as Mr. Walker said, it's not just my Horsham Day. There's a small little army that puts on Horsham Day, and I want to try to thank some of those people because the logistics that goes into it, it's really 6 months long. It's a long time. It's almost like planning a wedding, and then I don't know what happened Saturday, but everything went great, and then it's over Sunday. So, just very quickly, I'd like to thank some people that went above and beyond. Our police department, Chief Fida, Lieutenant Bazamo, Jason Cole and the fire company, the EMS, our fire marshal, Matt Reinhardt, Mike DeLucia with all of our fire police that were out doing traffic all day and all night. Kathy Dick, she was mainly in charge of the volunteers. All the volunteers that came out and helped us, to include the volunteers that led our sports tournaments, the fishing tournament. Rich Carey, who was in charge of the car show. The Happer Horsham School District, who let us use the shuttles, the buses throughout the day. They let us park at the high school so that way people can shuttle to the event. Mr. Heffernan and friends down at the Babylon Business Campus, they also let us park down there. Our Public Works team, behind the scenes, all week getting the parks ready, working day of Horsham Day, working the day after Horsham Day, and still, this week, still cleaning up. Thome Electric, there's so much that goes into the electric. Everybody just shows up and they see tents and they see food and vendors, and they think they just pop up and magically get there, but they don't. There's a lot of electric work that goes into Horsham Day. Bova Foods, they let us borrow the freezer for the restaurants that was in the parking lot. Dan Quimby, Dan Quinn, all of our performers that came out, we switched up the stage this year. So we had a lot of musicians. We have entertainers that were on the main stage, all the businesses and nonprofits, the restaurants. It's, we say that COVID's over, but they're still going through a hard time. And the restaurants that came through for us and came out to Horsham Day, we really appreciate that. and all the residents that came out to enjoy the day, and everybody else I forgot. Like I said, there's a lot of people, but this is mainly for the logistics. But it was a beautiful day, and it was a great opportunity to be a part of it and put on a party for Horsham. So thank you.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Dennis. I know that you can't thank these people enough, because it is a lot of work, and we know over the past 6 months you've been going crazy. So now might be a good time, Bill, to promote National Night Out.
I don't have that flyer, but our next major event in Horsham is National Night Out. So that'll be Tuesday, August 2nd, on this campus, on this complex, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. I know Chief Fida is in the back, but this is an event that's run right through our police department, and it's part of their community policing program. And they have free food, unlike Horsham Day. So, but, we encourage everyone to come out for that event. It'll be here on this campus, so parking will be over in Deep Meadow Park with fire police crossing people over for that evening. But put on your calendars, Tuesday, August 2nd, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., here on this campus.
Thank you, Bill. All right, next is a presentation of a concept plan for townhomes at 726 Norristown Road and Hazel Lane.
Good evening.
Evening.
Now that you're fancy, I have to use a microphone, right?
Right.
There's
Yes.
not a portable, I have to sit here?
Yes.
Go up there if you want.
That's not portable, but.
No. I'll make do.
You could take it down though with the wire if you want and move around.
Would that be all right?
Yeah.
That way Sal can sit here with this.
You just have to keep that mic very close to your mouth for it to work. It's not as sensitive as these.
Okay, great.
There you go.
There we go. Hi, I'm Kristen Pianzio with Hamburg, Rubin, Mullen, Maxwell, and Lupin. I'm an attorney representing the owners of the property, here to discuss with you a concept for 426 Norristown Road. I have a team with me. We're going to try to streamline this. We know you have other things on your agenda, and I like to move at a clip. Sitting at the table is Sal Payone Jr. of Payone Homes. We have Dominic Payone and Sam Payone in the front. This is Greg Richardson from Traffic Planning and Design. His office did a draft traffic impact study. They've also been talking with PennDOT. Bob Jordan is in the front there. He's with Woodrow and Associates, our civil engineer. Behind him, 2 rows, is Bruce Goodman. Bruce owns the property. He's teamed up with Payone to discuss the development of the tract that you see up in front of you. So we started looking at this property in 2015. We met with staff and your consultants, picked their brains about some of the issues that we recognized in the potential development. Sal and Bruce, a number of weeks ago, invited the neighbors to a meeting. They put letters in the envelope, letters in the mailboxes of everybody on Misty Hollow. They hit the 2 neighbors that are adjacent along the front on Norristown Road, here and here. They are the Centolas and the Gouters. Sammy Braccia owns the property across the street. He was invited. They've spoken to him. And Albert and Denise Payone, they're back here, right, Sal? Yeah. So those folks were invited. They came. They shared with them what I'm going to share with you. We were able to solicit their comments and find out what was important to the neighbors. And there's no surprises about what's important to everybody. To the immediate neighbors, stormwater management is a major issue. There is a watershed in Upper Dublin that traverses along through the property from here. It goes across our property and then along the Grant property in front and travels through Misty Hollow. Obviously, we are at the very first step here, asking you to consider our proposal. Should we get past this procedure, we would then move into a land development where we would address things like that. We're going to show you some plans. We know that we don't have you or asking you to approve a plan. It's just a concept. There would be a lot of work moving forward in how we develop the ground, buffers, that stormwater management, and things like that. The trees are a very big issue. Obviously, they look different today. The tornado really did a number on this property and on our neighbor's property. What to do with that is a significant issue. Buffers around the exterior of the property are important. And beyond The immediate neighbors, I think regionally, it's traffic, traffic, traffic. Norristown Road backs up from the intersection of Welsh Road and Norristown, as everybody knows. There's a major concern there today and a backup today. We looked at what we could do to do our part to mitigate that traffic and do something to it to make it better than as it functions today, even considering this extra development. That's why we got traffic planning involved. And I know from working here for 20-some years that pedestrian connectivity is very important to this township. So we looked at ways to do that and took that into consideration with what we're going to show you. What I have here on the screen, this is the property. It's about 14 acres. It's comprised of 2 parcels. It has frontage along the bottom on Norristown Road here. It backs up to the Misty Hollow subdivision in the back here. Who's got control? Is that you? Okay, next slide, please. I know that Mr. Gadea Walker and Sal both sat on the county 2040, Monco 2040 committee that took a look at Montgomery County, the entire county, to find where's the development areas, where are we preserving open space, where are we redeveloping, what regional issues do we have, and that committee came out with this booklet, which I think you're all familiar with, this Monco 2040. And in this study, they have identified the property and the intersection of Welsh and Norristown, which my pointer's not now working. There we go. Right in there, that little section, they've identified as a community mixed-use area of the county. Next page, please. This is page 82 of this study. It identifies what exactly a community mixed use is. And just briefly, it talks about local community focal points that typically have a significant retail or institutional element with surrounding residential uses. These centers are located on major roads within the community and usually have a suburban character. The primary uses in these areas might include community and neighborhood shopping centers and retail uses in concentrated nodes, professional offices, business offices, and other small-scale offices, major institutions, and then higher density residential uses that act as a transition from the non-residential area to the residential areas. So that's what we looked at in what to do with this property. Next slide, please. So when we talk about an area that is a transition use, this is our property right here. This is Welsh Road. You have the bank, the CVS, you have the restaurants and the offices, the other bank, another bank, the strip center with the Dunkin' Donuts, the shopping center with the Giant. You've got the bar restaurant, commercial uses here, and then in the triangle, of course, Maple Glen Pizza, the 7-Eleven, the car wash, and the gas station. So you've got your non-residential, retail, commercial, and office use here. We have our residential, single-family detached dwellings all the way around the property, which makes this property perfect for a multifamily, higher density transition use. So that's how we approach this. Next slide, please. So in 2015, this was the first plan that was drafted for the property. It had 47 lots. As you can see, this is the area where I talked about the drainage area. This is environmentally sensitive land. You'll see that there was a road proposed to cross that land. This is the tree area that backs up to Misty Hollow. That's right here. This plan was developed. We took a closer look at it and came up with the next plan, please. So this plan has 51. These are townhouses. You'll see that the townhouses face here. We have a 50-foot buffer along the front. There's a 30-foot buffer around the perimeter of the property. The decision was made to leave this area alone. Don't cross this environmentally sensitive area. Leave this nice open space buffer for our neighboring properties along this area. And then we took another look at this plan, and I'm going to ask Sal to speak to the changes between this 51-unit plan with the next plan, please, which is 45 units, and describe what's the difference between the two. Next slide, please.
Is the mic on? Is your, Sal, is your mic on? Sorry.
Hold it, maybe?
Hold on.
Dennis has to switch it.
Go ahead, go ahead.
There we go. Thank you. So this is the plan that we've arrived at that we feel is probably the best layout for the site. The prior plan of 51 units, it was too dense. There was certainly the units there, but things like the green space, parking for overflow parking when there's an event at somebody's home, it was lacking in that area. Going back to the initial plan from 2015, crossing that environmentally sensitive area felt like a major burden on the project and on the community. So if we could avoid that and then plan it out better so that there's certain amenities in the site that would serve the people living there, that's what we wanted to do. So this plan here has 45 units. So we're down from where we were in 2015. And what's nice about it is the first building that you see at the bottom of the page, the front of this building is facing Norristown Road. And then this building here is set back far beyond the 50-foot setback so that it opens up to Norristown Road. And what this does is it gives a better presentation to Norristown Road so that when you drive down the street, you're not looking at the backs of homes. You're not looking at homes right up against the street. There's a really significant green area in here, not just the 50-foot setback, but all through this area. These are garden walls that would be landscaped to protect from some parking that would serve these buildings in here. And there's another garden wall up here that would also be landscaped. There's probably going to end up some stormwater management in that area, but my point is that there's a presentation to the street, to the community, so when you drive down, the homes aren't on top of you. We have some stormwater management that is set up to, take care of the site, try to protect the other communities, to slow down the rate of flow. And then what we did was we looked at a pedestrian connection that could come through here. That surface could be any number of things depending on how and what the township prefers. But what that could do is that could connect to that CVS area and bring the residents here in the new community, and if they wanted, the residents from Misty Hollow out to the commercial uses. So getting the cars off the road, letting people walk to the store, to the Dairy Queen, to the pizza shop, to the CVS, to the Brick and Barrel, wherever they might need to go. So when I was talking about the presentation to Norristown Road, this building on the left was that first building I pointed out that was facing the street. And this fence area and this landscaping is that garden wall detail I was talking about. And then here's your first building coming in on the right-hand side. Some entrance features and more details to really refresh the community as you drive by. The architecture you're seeing is representative of some projects that we've built in the past. So a siding, a stone combination, craftsman architecture with exterior trim, peaked roofs, dormers, 2-car garages. Some of them would be one larger door, some of them could be separate doors to break up those facades. If you look closely, you can see that each home is individualized so that you're not looking at one massive building. They would be stepped back and forth, up and down a little bit to soften those lines to the street so it doesn't look so massive.
Go to the next. Thank you. Next slide, please. So when we talk about the connectivity, what we have is the benefit of Bruce owning the CVS property. So he can provide that easement for that pedestrian connection to the back of the CVS. This is looking up Limekiln, standing in the middle of Welsh Road. So you can see that the sidewalks are here to bring the pedestrians who'd like to use that trail system down to the intersection. Next slide, please. And then this is looking up Welsh Road. You can see there's sidewalks on either side of Welsh Road, so that pedestrian connection is there. So we just need to make it across our property. So We think that's a nice added benefit. Next slide, please. So, traffic, most important issue, I think, for this area. This is the intersection of Norristown Road and Limekiln. It turns out the traffic planning and design that looked at Norristown and Welsh also did the design here at Limekiln and Norristown Road. Their study that they put together, which is in draft form, which we will give to you, looked at what our improvements at Welsh and Norristown can do, taking into consideration the new volumes or the new houses that are proposed, and they don't take into consideration these improvements, and it still increases a whole level of service at the intersection of Welsh and Norristown. But for your edification, these plans include through lanes, dedicated left lanes, and right turn lanes at that entire intersection at Limekiln and Norristown. Next slide, please. And I'm going to let Greg pick it up from here. This is, just so you know, that taper that's along the frontage. Right here, this is the Braccia property. We have had conversations with Sammy about some right-of-way we would need in order to make this widening happen. He's agreeable to work with us to provide that. And then Greg will talk about what we're planning here and what the reaction has been from PennDOT. These are both PennDOT roads. This is Greg Richardson.
Good evening. Good to see you again. It's been a while. Yes, we've had some preliminary discussions with PennDOT, and we've had some discussions with staff, township staff. I've had quite a bit of experience working at these intersections, working with Mr. Goodman over the years. So what we wanted to look at was what kind of improvement that we could implement that would sort of a dual purpose, which is to solve some of the existing deficiencies at this intersection, as well as reduce some of the queues along Norristown Road, because that impacts our access point. I don't have to tell you that, the volumes along Norristown Road back up in our studies based on that is around 750 feet. By doing this improvement, we can reduce that by at least 30%. And what that does is it also not only allows you to reduce that length of that queue, but it also allows you to reallocate some of the green time at that intersection. So it improves the overall intersection levels of service. Kristen had referred to that, as well as gives us the ability to have what we would consider to be a safe and efficient access to and from Norristown Road. That is, again, you can do all the improvements here, but if we don't have safe and efficient access out of our site, that's, one of the most important things. And we've touched base with PennDOT to show them this concept plan. The initial reaction is that they feel that this is a good step in the right direction, taking into consideration the improvement projects that they've had over the years in this area have planned but never have really brought to fruition. And they feel that they would like to continue the conversation with us to provide this. And essentially what you see here is the provision of a right turn lane at the intersection. Right now, it's what we would call a through right turn movement shared. This, what that does, if you look at where the existing lane, it actually backs up, or it extends just past the bank driveway. With the ability to provide the separate right turn lane, that left turn, that through lane itself will be able to extend over 400 feet. Today, it's only around 230 feet. So not only does it distribute the traffic over two lanes, but it also lengthens that through lane, and essentially the effective length of that lane. So therefore, again, we are in the early stages of our traffic studies. We will be working with your staff, with your engineers, to further that if we get into the land development stage. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have when it comes to traffic. We know that's always a hot topic. But we believe this is an improvement that will not only benefit our site, but also the motoring public that currently goes by the site today.
A quick question. You said that the backup is 750 feet currently?
Yes, it's around, I can give you the exact number of it. It is 758 feet today.
So reducing it 30% takes you back another
Takes you down to around
200.
530,
225.
525, somewhere in there, yeah. Which is short of our driveway location, so therefore, based on the studies that we've done so far, it wouldn't back up past the driveway, the traffic, existing traffic.
Where's the entrance to the site? Where's the enter and the exit?
It's.
Do you see
if
it on
you-
this picture?
Yeah, it does not show. It's approximately 550 feet toward the, I guess, the northeast, if you look at it that way, heading toward the Naval Air Station and heading in that direction.
That 750-foot backup you're talking about is based on when?
That's based on the morning peak hour.
Morning peak hour?
Yep. And we did the counts in 2021. We did adjust them. At that time, we had to adjust them for COVID. So we actually increased the volumes to account for that. Right now, if you were to do counts, PennDOT doesn't require adjustment. But since we did the counts in 21, we want to make sure that we represented worst-case conditions, the highest traffic volumes.
Are you showing a dedicated left turn lane into this property?
We are not.
I-
Not at this time. The current plan, the number of left turns that is going at the highest peak hour, which is the evening, is approximately 9 vehicles making lefts in, which is one every 6 minutes, if you look at the peak hour overall.
No, I think that was just his part.
No, we're done.
Oh, you're done? That's it?
We wanted to have enough time for you to ask questions and for the residents.
You showed some pictures of what this might look like. Are these generic pictures? Would it actually look like these, the architectural design of these homes, or what are we talking about here?
You can take this as a pretty accurate representation of what we would do. Would it be only those units that you see there? There might be an additional one that we would have, but the combination of exterior trim, stone, siding, shutters, peaked roofs, that's what you could expect to see.
The stormwater basins that you have shown there, these, I'm going to assume, would be sufficient in order to reduce the problems of the people downstream, in Misty Hollow, the issues they're having?
It'll certainly take care of the runoff from our site. There's no question about that. We'll get into the design even further, work with your engineer and, what we can do to address secondary issues that are coming from offsite. We'll do that too.
You mentioned parking as well, and being a realtor, I get involved in parking a lot when it comes to townhouses, when there's such a lack of.
Yep.
Especially when people are visiting and someone's having a party and you run into all kinds of issues. How specifically are you addressing that?
So.
Like, what's it going to allow versus number of units?
So you have 45 units, and there are 2 cars that can go in the garage, plus 2 cars in the driveway. And then in addition to that, what we're showing here is an additional 20 spaces on the site. And as we get into the project, we want to look a little closer up in this area.
I don't see anything up
Yeah,
there
we
at all.
want to try to get some more spaces up in there. I think we have the room to do it, too. Our goal is always to spread the parking out across the site. It's great when you meet the requirements, right? But if all the spaces are all from one corner of the job, you end up with a whole bunch of cars in the street, and nobody's happy with that, and that causes a problem. So we try to spread it out across the site.
Yeah, because the issue you have if you don't have enough overflow parking is people parking across the street, somewhere else and then having
Right.
traverse across two,
Exactly.
three major roads that, I wouldn't want to cross.
Right. But for the 45 homes, I think we have a total on that drawing there of 200 parking spaces between the garage, the driveway, and the parking spaces. So we're, what's that, 4X?
The Braccia property across the street where you're talking about using the frontage of that property to expand or widen Norristown Road, can somebody show me where that area is on this map in relation to the entrance?
That area is right in here. I believe what would happen is, as you come around the Citizens Bank, that widening's already done. So it would start at that widening and then work its way down on a taper. I have my glasses on, my eyes still aren't that good to see the names.
We have a handout that might be easier for
There we
you to
go.
see closer.
Goes to about there.
This is just because we're talking about this specific issue, that the lack of a dedicated left turn, cars are stopped there to make a left to go into this property because they live there. If there's no dedicated left turn, won't that back traffic up into the intersection?
You want to take that?
Would you have the ability to change the entrance maybe further towards the triangle where you have the widen, where you might have access through you might be able to widen enough on the Braccia property to put the left turn?
I think the study's saying it doesn't back up to the intersection, but I'll let Greg get in the technical side.
Yes, Mr. Nesbitt, we did take a look at that as far as, part of our studies, we look at auxiliary turn lanes for that, and based on the volume of the traffic, again, what you do when you analyze the left turn lane is you take the number of left turns that you have proposed, and you take into account the opposing number of left turns that are coming in the other direction. Because that's usually the determining factor, of course, a gap in traffic. We also did gap studies in that area, meaning we went out and physically determined how many gaps in traffic there were for available vehicles that could turn in or out of the site. I know we've heard from staff that, if it wasn't a dedicated left turn lane, to possibly look into a runaround lane. And
What?
a runaround lane, a widened shoulder, or, something like that, to give the vehicles ability. Again, it doesn't warrant it from a volume standpoint, but that's certainly something that we can continue to look at, but it's, from a capacity standpoint, we don't, by the tools that we would, provide to your staff, your consultants, as well as PennDOT, we do not believe they would require a left turn lane at this point.
Based on the murmuring in the crowd that I heard when you said that,
Yeah.
I would
Well,
think there might be some disagreement there.
But back to my question was, is the entrance, does it have to be there, or could it be, in other words, you're going to have a wider Norristown as you get closer to the triangle. Is that where the entrance has to be?
I can't speak to
Based
that.
on this layout?
I think
That's what
Mr.
I'm looking
Payon
kind
and
of beyond you.
Mr. Jordan would have to,
We can
Yeah.
certainly look at it.
Because that might afford you the opportunity to have perhaps a left lane if you do, as you say, acquire a portion of the frontage of the Braccia property.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of artistic license in what you're looking at there, where the entrance is in that spot, so it's not a straight-out road. Try to put a little shape to it to give it a little character. We can definitely look at it.
Because I understand I don't understand the math, I don't understand the science behind all that, but all I know is if it does become a problem, it's a problem. And if the left turn's not in there, or there's not a way to flow traffic around cars making a left in there, it could back up into the intersection, and that's a concern from our standpoint.
understood. We hear you loud and
I
clear.
can't
We'll-
come back to you afterwards and say, hey, you were wrong.
No, you can't.
We were
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
or they were right, and then
Right.
trying to figure out how to get a left turn.
We want to make it as safe and efficient as possible. We don't want it to back up into the signal at Welsh. Certainly, that's not what we want to create an issue. But we'll certainly take it to heart, look at that really closely, work with your staff and PennDOT and see what we can come to some resolution on that.
I think the biggest thing to point out is, even with this project as proposed and built, the improvements would improve the performance of the intersection and shorten the queue on Norristown Road going from the Navy base towards Maple Glen post-development, with added traffic for the extra, what is it, 5 years that come up, and the project that is proposed in Upper Dublin. All that's been taken into account. So we really assess this as an absolute worst-case scenario, and it's still an improvement over what's there today.
Welsh and Norristown Road is a terrible intersection. Always been, and I will say, when Citizens Bank went in, it was made less terrible because of the right turn, the dedicated right turn lane, and some of the changes there. So that little corner got a lot better, but it just kind of revealed how bad some of the other corners are. We can't fix the Upper Dublin side
Right.
much, but I will say little changes can make a difference. Like, if you look at what was the worst intersection, which was Welsh Road and Limekiln Pike, we're making, because I grew up in Maple Glen, making that left turn was always, you kind of crossed your fingers and you made the left. And then when we finally did the beneficial bank and said, hey, we can fit another turn lane in here, it made all the difference in the world. Now you can safely make a left turn. When you leave the CVS and you want to go up Welsh Road, you can make a safer left turn. So it might not look great, but sometimes these little changes can make a difference. Look, I don't like the way that the Norristown Road's angled there at the intersection. You know, that can't, from a traffic standpoint, that can't be a good idea, but there's no way we can fix that, unfortunately, without a major overhaul from the state.
Anybody else up here have questions?
How many bedrooms?
Definitely 3, possibly 4 is standard or as an option.
Square foot.
How many square foot are you putting in a
We're probably in
four-bedroom?
the 25 to 2,600 square foot plus or minus. That doesn't include a basement, that doesn't include a garage, doesn't include a possible finished attic, so, I mean, you finish the basement, you finish the attic, you could be in the 3,500, pushing 4,000 square foot range.
That push your parking requirements up?
It may, and it's something we'll have to look at.
Um,
I think what I'm trying to get at is, they're not little units. They're not, it's not introductory housing.
Yeah, it's hard to judge that based on what we're seeing here.
Yep.
If it's a 3-bedroom, what do you see it start at?
It's always hard to have a crystal ball, but I mean, I would say without question, it's going to start in the upper 500s, and the sales will be well into the 600s and touching the 7s in some cases. And just the sheer cost of construction right now has everything elevated. So we're all looking at new numbers today. So I'm confident that it'll do well. It's a great area. We've done other communities in the area, and they've all been successful. They've all appreciated in value, so I don't see this doing anything else.
Anybody else up here? Okay. Well, judging by the crowd, I don't think they're all here to hear about Outback Steakhouse. So I'll open it up to the public if you'd like to come up and ask a question, make a comment. Please feel free to come up to the microphone, and you'll have to give us your name and address for the minutes. So please be patient with each other, and we'll be patient with you. And whoever wants to start, please. If you talk loud enough, sure.
Try to reach it. We could-
Or we can help.
The issue with the microphones is because we're televised, everybody here might hear you, but it might not be picked up by the camera. That's the only reason why we're so careful about the microphones.
My name is Carl Walbert, 657 Maple Glen Circle, Maple Glen Hollow, which I moved into 27 and a half years ago. Main reason why we moved there as a family was to maintain privacy, and due to the Mother Nature back in September, we lost a lot of trees and some home issues, et cetera, but a lot of privacy was taken away then. But also now, considering this development, it's going to be a traffic nightmare regardless of what's being explained right now. I don't know what the setback is from Welsh Road back to the entrance to this development, but where 750 feet fits in there, I don't know that right this minute, but I think it's going to be an awful traffic nightmare. It's going to make worse what it already is bad. So I would suggest, based on traffic right off the bat, that PennDOT, Horsham Township, consider doing the road improvements prior to any development, prior to any agreement to develop, meaning those township needs to do road improvements at Norristown Road regardless, first and foremost. Secondly, I would ask if the place were to be developed or considered to be developed, there would not be the connectors, meaning there would not be the Misty Hollow connector. That would be eliminated, meaning that, A, we can maintain our privacy back at Misty Hollow like we originally agreed upon 27 and a half years ago. I don't want a connector from another development and having approximately, as I calculated, 130 people coming into my development that I don't know left from right. Strangers, whatever you want to call it, okay? And I don't want that egress to the shopping center. We easily can get to the shopping centers if we need to from where we are right now, walk down Misty Hollow, up the sidewalks, which are already there. We don't need any additional connectors. So that, I would say, eliminate that Misty Hollow connector right off the bat, maybe in both connectors, but that's not relevant. The other one doesn't matter to me too much, but that Misty Hollow connector is prominent. And again, getting back to the traffic summary, that's going to be creating a nightmare with, again, approximately 130 people, and as he said, 45 units, approximately 2.5 people per unit, so that's 112 people plus. No, it's not a good scenario. Thank you.
Just to clarify, just one thing, that the township would not be doing the road improvements, the developer would be doing them.
So they have no input through PennDOT or township?
Well, PennDOT has requirements, but what I'm getting at is it's taxpayer money is not paying to have road improvements done. The developer would be paying for that. As far as getting it done first, I'm not sure. It would depend.
This development is what affords the improvements at the intersection. I mean, without the development, there wouldn't be the improvements. We would not do them without the development, obviously.
Okay. Okay to go?
Okay?
Hi.
You got to get close to the microphone, too.
Hi, there you go. My name is Chris Priori, and I live at 602 Misty Hollow. I have a question. Does this plan require a zoning change?
Yes.
So it needs to be zoned, what would be the zoning change? From R3 to what?
I don't know if, okay, it's on now. That's something we haven't broached yet. We're looking at the possibilities for the development, and then we would work with staff to figure out if there's a way to do a change to an existing district or something new, or how to get to it so that the plan would move forward.
This development would not go forward without a zoning change. Can you hear me? Like Carl, my family also moved in 27 years ago, and when we moved in, we also relied on the R3 zoning designation, which means half-acre lots, single-family homes. Down Norristown Road, Carpenter Lane was also developed. It's also in the R3 designated zone. That's single-family homes with half an acre. Across Norristown Road, the Presidential and Roosevelt Street development across Norristown Road, I understand that's in the R2. It's in an R2 designated zone, but those homes are also half-acre lot, single-family homes. So I would strongly be in favor of keeping the designated R3 zone where it is. I'm not against developing the property, but if they want to put half-acre, single-family homes in there, I think that would be fine. What else did you say? That was one. I also agree with no through path to Misty Hollow. I would also be against that. Thank you. Thank you.
Good, if I could respond. We are open to whatever the neighbors want to see as far as that connection. So that's something we're showing on the plan, should they want it. If they don't want it, that's clearly a conversation we're willing to have. I would point out, we tried to look at this property like the county did in their 2040 plan and provide a transitional use between the office and the commercial and the single-family dwellings. By right, we could build 3 units per acre on the property. And with that, there wouldn't be the intersection improvements. That would be a by right plan that we could file. What we're proposing here doesn't include crossing those environmentally sensitive areas like that plan would, and it's 3.25 units per acre. So it's 3 units per acre or 3.25. We think this is a much better development. We're not touching that environmentally sensitive area and crossing the creek, and we're providing these intersection improvements that you wouldn't otherwise get with a by right plan.
Hello, my name's Megan McCartan. I live at 508 Rolling Glen Drive, so I'm not necessarily right in this, but I do drive on these roads every day. We've been here 28 years, and we also moved in to get away from Northeast Philadelphia and the boulevard and the roads that are just crowded all the time. And I just feel that with the development at Lime Kiln Golf Club with 800 homes there, I don't understand where Horsham is heading with all this dense buildup. I mean, this is a bedroom community of single homes, and it just seems like it's getting overrun with now dense plans. And I'm sure they're beautiful homes. They look very nice, but I don't understand why they can't be single homes. You can get a lot of money for a single home instead of three townhomes. So my concern is the traffic, and I don't care what you say, because once that development, where all the tornado tore through on the Upper Dublin side gets developed, you're going to have to walk through that neighborhood or through the intersections, because you're not going to be able to drive. There's just not going to be, I don't know what you can do to the roads once that's developed now, too. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's not built for that. This community has the charm of what it is now. I don't know why we're trying to make it into a center city or something. I don't know. That's just my opinion. That's all.
Hi, my name is Sal Santola, 1 Hazel Lane, Horsham, PA. So, just like the tornado, I am ground zero to this development. So, before this goes forward, do we have time to redress our concerns about this development?
This is just a presentation tonight.
I understand that, but I mean, there'll be other hearings.
Oh, absolutely. If we decide to move it forward, then yes, there would be
Okay.
other.
I mean, my main concern is Sal, not great guy, but as he suggested, that the presentation to Norristown Road is in front of the houses. My presentation is the back of the house. And 20 years I lived there. All I see are trees for 20 years. I don't see a million houses, but I understand progress is progress, but I do have some concerns. And so the setbacks by law are how much, 30 feet?
We're proposing 30, yes.
What does the law say?
I don't know what the R3 is right now. What's the R3? Anyone know? What we're proposing is a variation of the R3.
What is R3?
Oh, it's a good question. Anyone know what R3 is?
What's a variation of the R3?
We're looking it up right now.
I know what the R3 is, but I don't know what a variation of R3. R3 is R3. The specifications are what they are. You can't vary them.
I can address what the woman's saying in the back of the room, which you're probably not picking up on your microphone. We're not being cheeky about this. It's zoned R3. It's permitted to have single-family houses. We can build on this property today at 3 units per acre. It would include crossing the environmentally sensitive area.
Let her speak.
And we would not do any of the road improvements. That's an off-site improvement. We've come here to show you what we think is a better development. It would require changes to the R3 or otherwise, as your staff would indicate. But we think this is a better plan. It protects all those woods in the back. It doesn't cross the environmentally sensitive area. And we can improve Welsh and Norristown, bring it to a whole level of service higher than it is today, even including all that Upper Dublin development. We included that in the study without the road improvements that they're doing at Welsh and Norristown and Limekiln, which does include left turn lanes, right turn lanes, through lanes. That's all part of that proposal. But we didn't even count that in doing our study, and we still have an improvement here, a whole letter higher under PennDOT standards. And we can reduce the queue. It won't go past the driveway as it exists today. That's going to be shorter. So this is a marketable improvement to the intersection, even including all that development that people are speaking of.
Just to answer the question, Mr. McCouch, the current R3 zoning allows for a 50-foot rear yard setback, a 50-foot front yard setback, and 35-foot aggregate for side yards.
Houses could fit on 1 acre now in Horsham at R3, because that's what I am, R3.
Well, R3 is not 1 acre. R3, a by right plan for R3 is a 32,000 square foot lot.
Okay, so I have about almost 2 acres. So if they get a zoning variance, do I get a zoning variance? So I could put more houses on my property?
Have to apply for it, sure. I mean, everyone has a
I'm
right
right
to
behind
ask.
them.
Everyone has a right to ask that question,
Okay.
yes. Yep.
Well, that's, all right, we'll address the concerns when it goes forward, if it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
1 second. Mary, can you briefly just explain, because the question came up in the audience about R3 versus variations of R3, what we'd be talking about?
When they're talking about variations of R3, the stage that we're in now is that the applicant is requesting a change of zoning to permit this land development. That could be accomplished in a number of ways. It could be rezoning it to a district that's already established, or it could be creating another zoning district that is more tailor-made for this project, or it could be creating what we call an overlay district within the R3 that allows, under certain circumstances, for this type of development to be constructed. I'm explaining that procedure to you. Please understand that council has not made up its mind on this project. It is listening to input from the developer. It is listening to input from the residents as well.
Thank you, Mary. Just wanted to clarify what they were talking about. I'm sorry, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Gina Fabrizio, and I live on Presidential Drive, so I'm in the development across the street from there, right next door to Sammy Braccia. My concerns are the same as everyone else here. The traffic is a mess, and I know that they're addressing the traffic issue. I'm a walker. I ride my bike. I moved into that house 17 years ago. I can't do really either at all. It's pretty dangerous. I also have 5 children in the area who used to be able to do the same thing, and really, I don't feel safe for them to do that because of the traffic issues. Also, if you put a development in with that many townhouses, there are going to be families. You're going to look at school buses. There's a lot of problems with the school buses on that street, stopping, people going around them, not even paying attention. Unfortunately, in today's world, people aren't paying attention to the flashers on school buses and are going around them. That's going to increase because you're probably going to have school-age children. Just concerned with, I think it's a good idea to put in the single-family houses just because it'll get the numbers down for the people that are living in them and also the parking. And I also think it would be a good idea. I know that our development wasn't invited to this meeting. My sister-in-law lives on Misty Hollow, told me about it. I just happened to find out about it. I just came from work, so I wanted to come and just voice our opinion because I think our development, since there's so many people there, should be involved in this because if that driveway or entrance is going in, that's right across from our development. I sit there forever trying to get to work or get to school, whatever, and it's usually a pretty bad nightmare. I know I can't go there certain times of day, so that would be a real problem. So thanks for listening. I appreciate it.
Just so everyone knows, so when council got this, most of the people here probably received a letter from me. What we did to determine who received a letter, our ordinance requires, if this moves forward and there are official rezoning hearings, everyone within 500 feet are notified of those public hearings. So what we did was notify everyone within 500 feet. It sounds like a lot, but it's not a lot. At the end of the day, it does not reach over to Roosevelt Estates on Presidential Drive. But everyone within 500 feet of this parcel, this proposal concept, received a letter about tonight's meeting.
My name is Al Keefe. I live at 737 Norristown Road. It's directly across from the entrance to this project. I don't believe it's the statistics that you presented as far as backup traffic. I've been there for 53 years. That's the worst I've ever seen. I can't get out of my driveway most times. I sit there for long lengths of time before people are courteous enough to let me out. And my biggest concern is, you know, Norristown Road is a corridor for our rescue vehicles, fire engines, police cars, going from the center of Horsham to the western end. You get it back up there, you're going to have a big log jam, and people are going to suffer. I hope they're taken in consideration. That's got to stay clear to let those emergency vehicles through. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Larita Grant, and I'm at 605 Misty Hollow Drive. So I actually just wanted to give a different perspective. So many people here have been here for so many years. So we just moved here. We moved here a little over a year ago. And a big draw to moving into our home was the fact that we had the privacy, we had the trees. When we were moving here, we had to sign so much paperwork to say that we would not build anything on our land because this was protected land, it was wetlands. Then we had the tornado, was a devastation as a new homeowner. And now we have this. So I'm just asking for the same thing that everybody else is asking, that if it is going to be built on, that it be single homes. And then I had a question for the traffic study. So you said it was based on 2021 numbers?
That's correct.
And when you say 2021 numbers, you mean like that for the volume of cars, or?
Yes, when we do our traffic studies, we usually pick a particular day and a typical weekday, not when it's a holiday or
Right.
we make sure schools are in session. And what we do is in this instance, we go out and physically count the intersection, the traffic volumes along the roadway for 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening. And the reason why we pick those 2 hours is that's when usually the highest volumes are on the road themselves. And that's usually what we call the commuter peaks when you're going to work or coming to work or coming home from work in the evening. So therefore, what we try to do is look at worst-case conditions with our site and try to marry that with the existing conditions that are along the roadway. And then there's computer models that we run, and we're able to determine based on field observations as well as the computer models and make sure that they match up. And then just based on the data the results that I was presenting tonight were as a result of those traffic counts that we did.
Okay.
We weren't making just pie in the sky
Right.
projections. We were actually physically got traffic volumes from out here, saw what we're hearing tonight, the experiences that you have with traffic volumes. And we recognize that the volumes do back up. There's
Right.
no denying that. I mean, we're not coming here saying that everything's rosy and we're going to solve the world's problems, but with this development, we have two obligations. One is to mitigate our traffic. If we cause any undue congestion or increase in delays at the intersection, then we need to solve that. The other one is if we can improve options or operations at an off-site intersection, our residents are going to be impacted by that too. So we want to make that intersection, the nearby intersections, do what we can, within reason, of course, to improve the roadway conditions, because we do realize that there's deficiencies out there.
Right, okay. Thank you for that explanation.
Sure.
So I guess my question is, if you said it improved the backup by 30%, but that does not factor in the Upper Dublin development or this development, like those numbers?
It does. The improvements, when Ms. Pianzio had spoken about, it doesn't take into account the improvements, because we didn't look at that intersection of Lime Kiln and Welsh in our study. We focused on this intersection. However, when we do our traffic studies, we look at the existing volume, and then we include any notable developments that might be going in.
So you did factor in.
So we did factor in the traffic, but what we didn't focus on that intersection, because that development is doing its own related improvements, and we
Right, but they'll be traveling,
Right.
they'll still be traveling there.
Well, yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. The volume that would be coming out of those driveways are going to go through this intersection. And we added that traffic to this intersection.
For the proposed one or the Upper Dublin one?
For
both?
For this intersection, we added their traffic to this
Okay.
intersection.
Okay.
We didn't ignore that development.
Okay.
And on top of that, we also add a percentage of growth for unknown developments that might be taking place. Because these roadways are cut-through roadways for a lot of other municipalities. So we have to take into account any known developments, which is the Upper Dublin development.
Okay.
We distribute that volume through this intersection. There's going to be left turns, throughs, right turns at this intersection from that development. Then on top of that, we add our traffic. So there's almost like three conditions that we're looking at. Existing conditions without any development taking place. Then we add in the development for Upper Dublin. And then we add in the traffic that's proposed for this particular development. And then what we do is, at that point, we take all the three conditions that we look at, and we make a comparison. And we determine from there is, what is this impact of this development going to have on that intersection? And if we have any impact, we're obligated by the township's requirements to mitigate that. But we're also we're obligated by PennDOT, because we're going to need a permit for that driveway. And therefore, we have to do the studies, but we have to get through this phase at first. But we have had discussions with PennDOT, and we're working through that right now. And certainly, we don't have any approvals. We're far away from getting any approvals. But some of the things that Mr. Nesbitt was bringing up tonight about the access, those kind of items are going to have to be worked out with PennDOT. And certainly, my client wants to make this as safe as possible, but he doesn't want to create any undue congestion on the other intersections in the area.
No, I hear you. I mean, and I think on paper, it sounds wonderful. I think what the fear is in the room, and all of us that live in the community, is there's these wonderful studies of what's going to happen, but what's the reality, and what happens once everything is built, and then that's the reality.
I understand. Thank you for your comments.
Back on what she was saying about being 221.
You would have to come up here to do it, unfortunately.
Sal has something he wants to add to that, too.
So, Ms. Grant, it's good to see you again. Your point about on paper, and it sounds good, but what's really going to happen? All I can tell you is what we've done from experience. We did a similar project a few years ago over in White Marsh at Butler Pike and Flowertown Road and Plymouth Road, where there was a massive traffic backup. It was terrible going through there. And we worked with PennDOT, and we worked with actually 2 townships in the county to realign that intersection. The traffic was already there, much like it is here. So none of us are going to be able to make the traffic go away, whether it's singles or townhouses or anything. The best thing that we can do is to help it move. So what we were able to do there, and Greg was actually the traffic engineer on that project, and we had a very similar meeting with the township, with the residents, and we were able to get that traffic to move. So today, which is now almost 15 years later since that project's been built, and there's been more development in there, that traffic continues to move better today than it even did 15, 20 years ago because of those improvements. So I can only tell you from experience that the steps that we're going through in my opinion, and from what I've seen, they work. I think they will here too.
And, hi, my name's Karen Marple, located 860 East Welsh Road, Marple Clemens Real Estate, right on Welsh Road. Just to piggyback on what she was saying, you indicated your study was done in 2021. I think before that moves forward, it would have to be revisited because your numbers can't be accurate because of COVID, everybody working from home. So those numbers would greatly improve. We see accidents every day on Welsh Road. The traffic's terrible. Coming up to the light at Norristown, people start getting in the left almost at Maple Glen Pizza and our parking lot. I don't even park out front anymore because of the way people are in and out. And to your point about not getting out of your driveway, even today, I went to turn left just to go to Citizens Bank, and you're saying about people being courteous, nobody lets you out. I ended up turning right, going over Downey and out the light at Herman Road. So if we have to do that now, I know you're talking about road improvements, that's great, but the traffic in Horsham, no matter what you do, is only going to impact traffic worse.
Right. If I might clarify, maybe it wasn't clear, we did the traffic counts in 2021.
Mhm.
We compared those to volumes that we had previously before COVID. We compared those volumes, and they were lower than pre-COVID. So what we did was we adjusted those volumes to match pre-COVID conditions. Then, on top of that, we've actually, what we call growing the traffic, increasing the traffic. We took those volumes and assumed that these were 22 volumes by growing them by, I think it was roughly 2 to 3%. So we, and again, if I wasn't clear before, when I said 2021, it was pre-COVID. We did the counts, we adjusted them accordingly, and we used the methodologies that PennDOT is required. They actually put out a letter that says, you do counts in here, beware, you're going to have to bump them up, and we did that. So your point is well made. I know we live in a different world now, and people are working differently from home, but it's something that I'm sensitive to when I do my traffic studies, because I've got to answer to people like you that make comments like that. So thank you for your comments.
Hi, let's see how this works. Hi, I'm Jim DiMatteo. I live at 699 Misty Hollow Drive, which is behind there, and I've lived there since they built it. I have a few questions. Number one, and I don't know if he may be able to answer that. The speed limit on 63, which is a state road, correct?
Yes.
It's 45. And my son got in a bad accident at that intersection at Norristown and Limekiln there and all that, and right there because of that left turn. So it's still pretty dangerous. I wonder why the township hasn't done anything to ask the state to reduce that to 35 at least. With all the high traffic going in and out of Maple Glen Pizza and all that and CVS, that just seems like a high rate of speed for there.
I can answer that question. It really, the township, because it is a state road, the township can make the request. However, PennDOT has to approve it. So, again, I don't know the history of if there's any request made, but my experience of 35 years in the business is PennDOT is very reluctant to lower speeds on roadways. But it's not unheard of. So,
well, I'm just thinking in terms of all the more traffic that we're going to get with the other development in Upper Dublin, all those extra cars, if this goes through, you're going to have a lot of accidents. That's just the way it is. I've been on the road my whole life. I drive to Jersey back and forth. I put about 50,000 miles a year on a car. I've done that for the past 30 years, and I can tell you that the traffic's getting worse.
Right, and part of our studies also, we do a safety review also.
Right.
We just don't look at the volume. We also look at the history of these intersections and see if there's a pattern that can be solved by certain improvements. So it's something that we work with. PennDOT requires a safety study, an accident, what they call a crash history analysis. So thank you for your comments. We'll certainly take that into consideration.
I have another question about the water retention. I know nothing about it. So how fast will that drain after a 2-inch soaking rain? And will there be a possibility of increased mosquitoes there? Will there be anything done about that?
You got to use the mic.
Per DEP standards, we're obligated to meet our MPDS requirements, which will control the basin runoffs, or have to meet the requirements of the township, which we're willing to work with Gilmore to come up with a solution.
What are those standards? You know?
It basically, dewatering depends, it's 3 to 7 days. is
3 to 7 days.
3 to 7 days. And that's in an amended soil area, so it's underground water being dewatered over a period of time.
And my other question is, for Sal, if you put single-family homes on there, how many would you get? Have you drawn a plan up like that?
Well, the ordinance sorry.
I sit on my lap.
The ordinance permits 3 per acre. So the property is 14 and a half acres, so the mathematics works out almost the same of what would be allowed under the ordinance of R3.
I thought it was 2 per, like a half acre.
I'm pretty sure it's 3 of what's allowed under R3.
Well,
Now-
you're still going to have a lot of waste because you're not going to have all 14 acres, so I wouldn't.
Correct.
I wouldn't think it would be as many.
What we can fit is probably 10 to 12.
All right, so that would.
And that would include crossing over the environmental area to have homes in that open space where we see that trail up against Misty Hollow.
So the tax base
And-
would be lightened for the township if there was 12 single homes there, as opposed to, how many townhouses, 45?
Tax would be a lot less, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there's that.
So this brings in far more taxes, there's no question about
I'm
that.
sure about that.
But it brings the traffic improvement. You can't do the traffic improvement
Okay,
with 12 houses.
I can tell you, we don't make these decisions based on tax base.
okay. I have one other question regarding the zoning. It's an R3 now, correct? So he would have to have it changed to an R2, is that correct?
I don't think.
Or just an amended R3 of some type?
No, I think they're talking about something different.
The zoning I'm talking about.
No one is talking about any particular zoning ordinance amendment. The first step is to see if the development is something council and the residents are interested in pursuing. After that, Kristen and I and the rest of the staff would be charged with coming up with a zoning ordinance amendment that fit the development. So when you're saying, would it be R2, would it be R3, what it would be the development that's proposed. And
Okay.
zoning would be tailored to fit that.
And how will we know about that?
Because all that process has to be public. This particular hearing that you're at this evening is not a required hearing. This is council's attempt to reach out to you to get your input. After this hearing, if council decides it wants to go forward with the proposal, a zoning ordinance would be drafted, and there'd have to be public hearings on that zoning ordinance. The planning commission would review it at public meetings, and council would have public hearings here.
Okay, you answered my question, thank you.
Yes. Unfortunately, so do we. I'm sorry?
Receive letters of each.
Yes, yes. Okay, anybody else? All right, okay, sir?
I missed it, I'm Mark Alfonso, 703 Misty Hollow Drive. I missed a discussion about what I heard referred to as the Maple Glen Misty Hollow Drive connector. What is that?
It's the walking trail that they show going from the development through the wetlands and then turning towards Misty Hollow.
I can tell you why they did that. So every time we build a development, we try to develop walkability, and most developments find some way to connect to the power line trail. There's no way this is ever going to connect to the power line trail. It'd be great if we could figure out a way to connect everybody to the power line trail, so it can't. But they know we love connector roads. They know we like inner walking paths, because actually, if the residents that do have them, when they go to sell their house, that's one of the things that they really market. If you're along the power line trail and you can connect, and I know you guys won't be able to, and I apologize, you'd have to get a giant bridge or something. So I think they see that we like that, and they're probably trying to entice us with, hey, we've got a walking trail. And in a perfect world, because I can tell you for the last 30 years, there's been overlay plans talk through the county that Maple Glen would be this kind of village-type atmosphere where somehow some of these office professional buildings would turn into restaurants and it would be much more walkable. I think that's what they're trying to entice us with the walkability, but I get that you guys don't really love that. So that's not, none of that's set in stone either.
Yeah, my question was, that's what I thought it was, I didn't understand in the beginning. So that would, the way those properties are configured, and one of them is mine, is that would require easements.
Absolutely.
Okay.
This is all, some of this is kind of, I don't want to say pie in the sky, but it's enticement. Like, the one thing they're not showing you is, because one of the first things that came up were trees. They lost a lot of trees. They had a nice buffer. Even what you're not proposing to infringe upon has already been wiped out. So I would imagine that that whatever goes in there, they'd like to see more buffering, more trees, replanting of trees, so that at least this area that we now know is between Misty Hollow and whatever you're calling this thing, is going to be reforested. Not going to do that. I can't. I'd be here all night if I have to have collateral discussion. So, I would imagine that there's going to be some. I can tell you from a township perspective, it would be do what you have to do and more. They have, for every tree they take down, they've got to replace. But I would imagine one of the things that these folks are really looking for is a better buffering. Not just distance, but because we know when wintertime comes, it could be 30 feet, it could be 50 feet, but when the vegetation goes down in the wintertime, you can see everything and you hear more. So I can tell you I'm not giving a weather vane signal on anything, but that's definitely something that I can tell you from my perspective, driving through Maple Glen and what's happened over there, and especially to this development that still has houses boarded up. I was at a grad party there on Saturday. I mean, I get it. Like, there would need to be a meaningful emphasis, boldface, meaningful reforestation.
My second question.
Oh, you can't. You gotta.
Well, I actually jumped into your time.
You gotta take your turn. I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault. It's my fault. I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
My second question was about in the open space area you're talking about there. So if you look at the trees now, they aren't all down. They're broken. So some of them are dangerous. Some of them just look terrible. But whatever. So that gets rectified one way or the other. And then you put little trees up. So you have because you can't put big trees up. So you have a big open space. Or is this lit? Is this a place where kids are going to hang out and drink beer? How does that get?
I think that's the concerns that you folks have about this little trail, that might be a hangout, and so that wouldn't be a lit trail. Like, those things would all be worked out, but certainly that wouldn't happen. And I think it's not, and again, when I say reforestation, I'm not talking about saplings. I'm talking about bushes. We have landscape architects that, it's not like, well, you took down a maple, so you got to put in another maple. You can put shrubs evergreens, you can put trees that, will survive in the wintertime and provide that kind of buffer that don't lose their leaves. They've gotten we're pretty good at creating some buffers.
Right, so the intent is not to have playgrounds and have
No.
all that stuff. It's really going to be reforested eventually as the trees grow up.
Yeah, I'm imagining, I don't know, is this going to be township open space? Okay. Homeowner association, okay. It would be dedicated open space that has extreme limits on what anybody can do with it.
All right, thank you.
Including you folks who border to it.
Are you got a question?
No, he answered my question about the township has architects for, tree, shrubbery and all that. I just want to know if there's a requirement on something like that. I mean, it looks like Hiroshima, my property.
Yeah. know a lot of the trees on Lime Kiln Pike that were in front of those properties that begin Misty Hollow.
Kind of got wiped out. And it'd be nice to see that reforested, because I know trees are expensive right now, obviously. You know, anything that's in high demand is expensive, and trees are expensive now.
Anybody else want to come up and, anyone brave enough to come up and support this? You have any comments?
No, we wanted to thank you for the opportunity to come here tonight. I know that council wanted to hear from the residents, and I'm glad that they've come as well. So thank you for your time tonight. We'll take into account all of these comments and then communicate with your staff as to next steps. Thank you.
And just to let everybody know, again, this meeting tonight was not to make any decisions, was strictly informative for us and for you, hopefully, as you heard things. And again, next step is, you know, they're going to provide maybe some more information, get you more information if you need it. I think you have most of their information that you could contact the people that have concerns, most of the concerns. If we decide to move forward again, it goes to hearings and all kinds of stuff that takes a lot of time. Again, thank you for coming out as well. It means a lot to us because we can't make decisions properly if we don't hear from the community. And that's our job, is to hear the community. So thank you again. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
And we'll give you guys a chance to leave because I know you don't want to hear about the Outback. Let's move on, shall we? Next, Bill, is a brief update on the PFAS water issue.
So, just real quick, this afternoon, the Horsham Patch put out an article. They shared an article. It wasn't an article of theirs, but they shared an article about some Navy testing that was done, and the headline read, high levels of PFAS in drinking water around the Willow Grove base. We checked into it immediately this afternoon, and it was not our Horsham Water and Sewer Authority public water supply. It was a private well on private property, untreated, in another municipality. And that's where that test came from. So we put something out right away on social media, on our website as well, and Patch, I think they've already done it while we've been meeting, but Patch was going to want a clarification and correction on the article that they put out. So again, there is nothing at all wrong with our public drinking water supply in Horsham. It is still at non-detection levels as it has been since October 2019, and non-detect levels since April of 2017. Now, just for your hopefully quick update. So everything in red is new since the last 30 days. So at our treatment plant, the effluent coming into the test was 26.6 parts per trillion, which is, we've been averaging that for a number of years now. The influent was tested on May 23rd. The test result came back, and that was 29 parts per trillion combined. And that's actually much lower than it has been the last year and a half. The myriad grant funding projects for the Water and Sewer Authority for private well connections, 8 offers of connection in main extension areas have been accepted by those property owners to date. And the Water and Sewer Authority is starting the feasibility study for well number 9, the treatment system, as well as other capital improvements. And for updates, the next RAB meeting is scheduled for Thursday, September 15th, 2022 at 6 p.m. in person at the Horsham Township Library. Stormwater management update from the Navy. So pilot, this is their groundwater treatment systems. So pilot number 1 as of June 1st has treated 22.12 million gallons of water. And their pilot number 2 off of Horsham Road since June 1st has treated 3.348 million gallons of water. And then the Biddle Air Guard Station, their detention basin, and their treatment system has treated approximately 99 million gallons of water. I stole these slides from the Health Study Committee that I'm a member of, and it's just to update you on the PFAS study. By the way, we are doing the best in the country. So there's 6 to 7 sites around the country that are funded for this PFAS national study, and we're one of them. So as of June 1st, 990 people have called into the clinic. They have over 200 future site office appointments scheduled to date into July. 536 adults and 24 children have completed site office visits. There's been also 25 child assessments completed, and they're hoping to keep the site open into the fall and winter of 2022. And their target is 1,000 adults and 300 children. And we really have to concentrate on the children numbers at this point. So some things that have been done, 18,000 postcards have been sent out over the last 3 months to specific property around in Horsham. They have a social media campaign that they're targeting postcard inserts in the Horsham Water and Sewer Authority bills, postcard inserts to EPA for distribution to private well owners. They're ongoing with flyers, yard signs. You see the yard signs on most of our township facilities. They actually have people out with door hangers and posters, and they actually did a robocall. They did robocalls starting March 1st to certain properties and families around the base. They have a stakeholder kit that we use and the other townships use. They have commercials, videos online and on the website. They've actually sending text messages to property owners and families, and they're thinking of trying to get banners at Little League games and youth sport organizations. Our state legislatures and even federal have been doing a good job too. They've been trying to do outreach through their social media and websites. The school district is also helping. They put out a flyer to all the parents several times over the last couple of months. And you can go onto their website and see all of this. It tells you exactly what goes on, and it does take some time, but the clinic is very friendly with children. They have activities and stuff, as you can see here. A family of 2 takes 45 to 60 minutes once they're at the clinic, and a family of 4 can take up to an hour and a half. So they do have the clinic designed to keep the children occupied while you're there. So they're really trying a lot of things. Again, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And again, as I mentioned earlier, our system is still below detection levels, which we reached that at, which is lower than 2 parts per trillion in October of 2019. We went non-detect. Non-detect is considered between 5 parts per trillion and 2 parts per trillion, and we did that in April of 2017. So our drinking water, public drinking water in Horsham is, if it's not the safest in the country, it's one of the top safest water systems in the country. That is my update.
Thank you, Bill. Next is the approval of minutes. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Treasurer's report, Bill?
The balance in the general fund as of May 31st, 2022 is $5,427,870.68. For the most part, the activity in all funds reflects budget expectations for May, with revenues in the general fund at 64.5% of budget and expenditures at 36.08% of budget. For a more detailed presentation of our current financial position, I would refer you to your monthly booklet.
Move to ratify the list of checks in all funds in the amount of $5,744.97, and further move to authorize payment of the same. Move to approve the list of checks in all funds in the amount of $427,417.63, and further move to authorize payment of the same. Lastly, I move to ratify the U.S. Bank credit card transactions for the month of May 2022 in the amount of $12,135.48.
Moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. So we have 2 subdivision land development plans. 2 are being tabled. 130 Meeting House Road and 233 Eastern Road are both tabled. We're not ready for those yet, Bill,
I
correct?
think 929 Limekiln Pike will also be tabled. We do not have their agreement to accept conditions, which we thought they would come tonight with.
Need a motion for that?
Need a motion for all three of these, or just?
Just one motion for all
I'll make
three.
it. I move to table the resolution for 130 Meeting House Road, 929 Limekiln Pike, and 233 Eastern Road.
Moved in second, all in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. So the last one would be County Line Veterinary at 325 West County Line Road.
And we do have their agreement to accept conditions, and they are ready for your consideration this evening.
We have a motion.
I move to adopt the resolution as proposed, granting preliminary and final land development approval to County Line Road Veterinary Hospital, 325 West County Line Road, 22-03-D.
Second.
Moved and seconded. This is a roll call vote.
Ms. Harmon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Nesbitt, how do you vote?
Vote aye.
Mr. Wade, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
And Mr. McCouch, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Next is reviewing the Horsham School District's KV school that's being built.
As council's aware, they've been through a process with us. They went to the zoning hearing board originally, and they got their variances they needed. Then they have received preliminary approval from Township Council. After that, they submitted their final land development review. They have received recommended final approval from the Township Planning Commission, and they are in front of you tonight for 6 requested waivers for their final review with you.
Okay, welcome.
Yes, good evening. Jamie Lynch from Dewey Engineering, representing Hatboro Horsham School District. Dr. Eveslaws apologizes for his absence this evening. His daughter's graduating, and since the weather was nice, he attended that instead of coming here.
No waiver, sorry.
Also, on behalf of the district wanted to pass along its congratulations for a successful Horsham Day, and was pleased to see that it was back on after a 2-year absence. So Scott wanted me to pass that along. Representing the school district tonight, I have John Kircher, who is the principal of Keith Valley Elementary School. To his right is Dave Schrader, architect from the Schrader Group, principal. And then representing the civil engineers, Justin Massey, who put together the stormwater report, and I'm pleased to say received the NPDS permit for the Keith Valley project roughly a week and a half ago. So we are ready to go, seeking council's conditional final approval this evening after being in front of the Planning Commission last evening, where we received the same. As Bill mentioned, there are 6 remaining waivers that we discussed with you probably at the prior meetings. We could run through them with you this evening, but we have all of the review letters from your consultants, from Gilmore, from the landscape architect, from the planner, et cetera. All of the responses to the comments made, in our opinion, will comply at this point. So a final cleanup of the plans to be submitted along with the required stormwater management agreement and development agreement, and we'd be ready to record. Our plan is still to bid this project late summer, early fall, go to construction along the timeline I think I presented last time, with completion out in 2026 at this point.
So if they're will complied, we need to go over these waivers?
Yes, there's 6 waivers that they are asking for.
Oh, you're still asking for them, you're not will complying with any?
They will comply with everything else, but they're requesting 6.
Oh, gotcha, all right, I'm sorry.
I don't know if you have the list or if you have
Yes,
the letter I
They all
have
have
here.
the
I'm happy
list.
to run through each one.
Let's start with the first one.
So the first one is in reference to section 190-23 to permit less than 100% of existing impervious to be considered meadow for the point of interest 3 when calculating the minimum required volume control. This relates to stormwater. The request for the waiver is based on the fact that the volume necessary to meet that requirement has been maximized in the underground stormwater basins that have been designed. The best that we can do based on the soil conditions and the infiltration results is 83%. And so that's why we're asking for that particular waiver. And I think we have support from.
Yeah, and if council recalls at the preliminary review, I had asked for this to be tabled because I felt like they could have done more, and they have since done more. And I agree with them now that they've done the maximum extent possible and would support the waiver as proposed.
Your ordinance is very stringent in that regard. The DEP requirement is 20% we're at 83%. We feel that we really maximized what we can do on the site.
Everybody good?
Next is waiver from section 19839.C4B from the requirement to have the plan signed and sealed by a registered landscape architect. The landscaping plan was prepared by Samantha Fenstermacher of Terraform Engineering. She's a graduate of the landscape architecture program at Virginia Polytechnic and State University. She is not a registered landscape architect. The design was done in close cooperation with the township landscape architect and has been reviewed accordingly. So we would ask for your relief for that registration requirement. Samantha's done numerous landscape projects for Terraform and with us in the past very successfully.
I did speak with Kim Flanders, and she was okay.
We're good?
With this, yes.
Okay. Next
Thank
one.
you. Next, section 19839D8, from the requirement that trees be planted when more than 20% of existing trees over 6 inches in diameter are removed. The applicant in this case is requesting a waiver not to require the remaining 26 replacement trees to be planted, and the township architect deferred to the township on this issue. So we're talking about 26 trees, and I think last time we talked about an option that is commonly made available to put them on township property or also on an alternative school site. We actually mentioned Simmons Elementary. That's certainly an option. The requirement for the waiver is really brought about by the fact that we're replacing all of the trees along Arundel, which has really been a hazard for the residents and for the school because those evergreens have gotten so tall. And as they've been dying off and the limbs are coming down, they're also taking the overhead power lines that run down that whole property line with them. And so as a part of the development, we're taking all of those trees down, remedying the condition, and replacing all of those trees with evergreens. But based on the count overall, we're still 26 trees short. But we'd be happy to resolve that really to your liking, whether it's between on the school district property or township park property.
I would say that if you have room on the school property, I would defer to that, just because.
I would think so. I mean, I think Simmons lost a lot of trees, and you got Jarrett Nature Center that could always use some replenishment. And it doesn't have to be a tree; it could be a bush or something else. We would do the calculation, but
Defer to the architect,
that'd
the
be great.
landscape architect.
But if they can't be used on any school property in Horsham Township, then we would take them to the parks.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Next.
Saldo 198, now I have to put the glasses on, 39E5B1 from the requirement that up to 50% of the softening buffer trees can be substituted with ornamental or evergreen trees or shrubs at a rate of 2 ornamental or 2 evergreens or 10 shrubs for every shade tree in order to permit 51% of the softening buffer shade trees to be substituted with evergreen trees at a rate of 2 evergreen trees for every shade tree as requested by the neighbors in the township. And this relates back to the discussion that we've had with the neighbors from the start of the land development process with respect primarily to Milton Avenue. And we've worked with them extensively with what we do for that lower property buffer, and we're really going beyond a buffer, and we're putting a screen up along the back of their properties. And I worked with those property owners directly. The school district, as the last step, sent a letter and the current landscape plan to all of those adjoining neighbors asking for any comment to come back with respect to the landscaping plan. So I went down and met with one of the neighbor representatives who was at Planning Commission last night. I've met with him several times, and he's very happy with what the school district has proposed for that buffer, and that's what generates this request for waiver.
The landscape architect was okay, so.
Yeah, Kim had no objection, and Jamie said it right. In order for them to accomplish what they have promised the neighbors in the rear, they need this waiver.
Are you okay? Okay. Next is the Park and Rec Fund.
Park and Rec Fund, a waiver from the requirement to contribute to the Park and Rec Fund in the amount of $78,657.50. Really, the request from the district comes from the fact that 4 new athletic fields, plus the natatorium, plus the gym space are being created as part of the project. So we're really creating a new recreation area for the district, and that's subject to council approval.
The township did the same, council did the same thing for Hollowell Elementary School. They allow our youth sports to use all these facilities, so.
I remember first hearing that there was going to be a turf field and then not a turf field. Where did the where did the project end up on that?
It is not a turf field, and, you might recall some of the discussions on impervious. And
You don't have I think I said this before, that I don't want it to appear that the township was in any way pushing against a turf field for impervious surface purposes. I made that clear at the last meeting, and I think a turf field in a project like this, in the current climate, with youth sports and things of that nature particularly, because oftentimes, like the high school, we see the project gets done, and then 10 years later, they have to come back before us for a turf field. Shame for 5 years down the line for you guys to say, hey, we need a turf field, and I guess I can tell you, you wouldn't get pushed back then on impervious surface coverage.
Absolutely. The project stormwater is designed to...
Last time I heard it was due to kind of budgetary reasons, because it was thought that it was better put towards other uses than an athletic field. So
Well-
I just want to be clear on the record. The reason that the athletic field did not get turfed has nothing to do with anything that's coming up on this side of the dais.
We would absolutely agree, so that we're clear.
I think, because we're trying to promote, in addition to what we already have in terms of facilities, looking at generating tournaments, generating multi-site tournaments where, you might have a lacrosse tournament or soccer, and that field with athletic, turf field would be perfect for that. And it'd be a great way to showcase this beautiful building that you're putting together. It's an impressive project, and it's in some ways the best way to promote our community is for somebody to say, look at this beautiful new school they built. Maybe I'll buy a house here. Maybe I'll move over here. Look at this great field I came to on a tournament, a soccer tournament or something like that. It's a great way to promote it, rather than they trudge around in the mud on a cold October day.
Yeah, there is no doubt. They don't call me the cost creep for no reason, and that's because, as was stated earlier tonight, even the cost of trees has gone up. So from a planning perspective and taking a look back at what the district has done, the first step they took was to install a new synthetic turf field at the high school that would be the playing ground for what happens while Keith Valley is under construction and we don't have any fields on the site, and arrangements have already been made to take athletics to another place. Now, as we go forward, and with the state of the economy and the state of cost of construction, the turf field was definitely jettisoned, unfortunately, because of budgetary concerns. And we have more of those sitting right in front of us as we go to bid this project. So we have a number of challenges for things that we can or cannot include. And there were other decision points there as well. There was to be an elevated track on the inside of the gym. That had to be, unfortunately, sacrificed. There was a desire to put more lanes in the pool. And unfortunately, that's had to be sacrificed because we've seen just extraordinary increases in construction.
Timing is everything.
But absolutely, nothing on your side of the dais has made the decision to eliminate synthetic turf from the project. The district would love to have it, but we have to put education first.
Understood.
So the indoor spaces will obviously have controlled access. Will the outdoor spaces be open to the public?
Yes.
Okay, so everybody's go with letter E. Last one.
And the final is 198.57.f from the requirement to contribute an outfall storm sewer fee of $3,754.70.
With the stormwater control that doesn't exist, and them doing the extra that our engineer asked and requested of them, well, I would recommend the waiver.
The money, the better use.
Thank you very much.
Will $3,754.70 buy a turf field?
I wish.
Turf shoes, maybe.
It'll buy a little sample.
Yeah, turf shoes.
Some
right?
infill. Thank you,
All right.
Mary.
All right, so next is, Bill, this is the final review, so next is to put this all down on paper and come back to us for...
And if it's ready, it'll be on your June 27th agenda for final approval.
June 27th, fine.
Yep.
July,
Final approval.
fine. When it's ready, we're ready to go for final approval. We have to do some administrative work. We've got a final set of plans to submit, so we still have some work to do on our end.
Whenever you're ready, we'll be here.
But we appreciate it.
Okay, good luck. Now, the infamous Outback.
So as council knows, the majority of council knows, because 3 of you were on council when the Hilton Homewood Suites on Blair Mill Road was approved through land development. It included a restaurant in the parking lot, a detached restaurant in the parking lot. So the property owner has acquired a Outback Steakhouse to go there. They do not need land development approval. They do not need zoning variances. That was all done through the hotel development. But there are no extra liquor licenses in Horsham Township. So Outback Steakhouse has acquired one from Lower Marion Township, and that triggers you guys to have a public hearing on that transfer of that liquor license. And that's what the agenda item is, scheduling the public hearing for that.
You have a motion.
I move to adopt the resolution as proposed, establishing Wednesday, July 13th, 2022 at 7:30 PM at the Township Building for a liquor license transfer public hearing for Outback Steakhouse at 724 Blair Mill Road.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. It's a roll call vote.
Ms. Harmon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Nesbitt, how do you vote?
Vote aye.
Mr. Wade, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
And Mr. McCouch, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
If there's no further business from you, Bill, Mary,
No, sir.
meeting adjourned.